What is going on, Diesel Nation? We're excited to have you guys with us today on the Diesel Podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube and aren't subscribed, make sure and click the subscribe button, like, comment, and let's just think about the episode. If there's a particular guest or topic you'd like to have on the show, we're definitely checking comments on there all the time. Love to be able to take your guys' suggestions and then work them into future episodes. Today, I'm going to be chatting with Lyle from Daily Driven Performance, and I wanted to talk with him about how to set up a 6.7 Cummins daily driver, what kind of parts he'd recommend for a little bit more power and torque for towing, daily driving. We're going to go through transmissions, fuel systems, basically everything that you'd want to do to a 6.7 liter Cummins to get a little bit more out of it. So I'm looking forward to chatting with him today. Before we get to it, though, I want to remind you our friends over at Kershaw Knives have a 20% off site-wide code for you. Use code 23diesel at kershaw.kaiusa.com. It's a great way to save some money, get some really cool gear. So if you need a knife for EDC or hunting, fishing, at work, at home, they've definitely got you covered. They've had a ton of new releases in 2023, and one of the newest ones are the Duralock models. And the blade's made out of D2 steel. The way that it opens and closes is really smooth, and there's a bunch of choices for different blade shapes and then also different handle designs and shapes as well. So if you're in the market, definitely make sure head on over their website, check them out, and use code 23diesel20 for 20% off. All right, let's get to today's podcast with Lyle and chatting with him about how to set up a 6.7 liter Cummins for daily driving and towing. Lyle, welcome to the Diesel Podcast. Looking forward to chatting with you today about daily drivers, and you're the founder of Daily Driven Performance. So I think things are going to line up really well for us to talk about how to build a really cool 6.7 Cummins daily driver. So welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. When you guys sent out this invite for me, I was pretty stoked, man. I've listened to the podcast, and obviously, I've had there's a lot of big names that have been on it, so I was, man, super happy to be a part of it. So
well, yeah, I was. We had somebody asked to have you on, and then I was going through your social media pages, and I was checking out all these cool trucks and all these different things you're working on. And they had wanted to hear about how to set up a daily driver, like a newer Cummins, so say something within the last 4 or 5 years. And I thought it'd be a really good chance to be able to put everything together between, tuning, turbos, injectors, injection pump, transmission, even what people really need for just an ultimate, kind of tow rig. But before we get into that, I wanted to ask you, for people who don't know you and don't know your company, tell us a bit about yourself, Daily Driven Performance, what you guys work on, what your focus is.
Yeah, so my name is Lyle Richmond. We have been, I started Daily Driven. It's been probably about 3.5, 4 years. Previously to this, I actually worked in the diesel industry for about 12 years. Much of that time I spent, I'd say probably half that time I spent working for just Bully Dog, as their national sales manager. And then that whole deal they got bought out by a big investment company, which transitioned to also working for SCT Performance. So, man, I did that for probably, I lose track of time, man. It's been a good 11, 12 years that I worked for them. And then, just like anything else, man, things change, all that good stuff. And I always have felt like being a big part of the scene, man. Like, I love the racing, man. I love the traveling. I loved all that stuff, man. And as it kind of grew and got bought out by the investment company, man, the first thing to go out the door is the race programs. And, all the cool stuff, all the fun stuff. It wasn't the same place anymore, man. So we, I'd had this idea of starting Daily Driven Performance for, a few years, never quite had the balls to do it, And then just one day, we kind of a funny story, but we were drinking and just kind of with a bunch of friends, and just one night late in the evening, we sent a bunch of money to a web developer, man, and registered an LLC at like 1, 2 in the morning, and kind of woke up the next day and I was like, shit.
Did I just do it?
it's happening, man. And so, that was kind of the moment, man. It's kind of a surreal thing that we kind of did in a unsurreal moment. And so yeah, we started the company, man. I quit Bully Dog and CT not much longer following that. Scariest thing I've ever done in my life, man. To leave such a good paying job, a company that I thought I was going to be a lifer for, to gamble on an idea, man. And so we started Daily Driven Performance, just like a lot of companies, started it out of our home, had an office, in the basement, and got to where we were just drop shipping, man. And then it got to the point where like, okay, we need to start stocking some products. And next thing we know, I lived in a subdivision HOA, but next thing I know, we have a 3-car garage filled up with exhaust systems, intakes, Fass systems, and we're starting to get fined from HOA for basically having too many trucks parked to the house and delivery trucks and semis showing up with freight. So so it kind of snowballed from there, man. We found a piece of property out in good old American Falls, Idaho. We have a 5,000 square foot shop out here. We're starting to just inventory as much as we can, and it's just kind of went from there, man. So we've been full in about, I want to say, like 4 years with Daily Driven, and just every day is a new adventure, man. Just keeps growing, and we just play every day by ear, man.
There's a lot of similarities we have, which we were chatting a little bit before the podcast was really interesting, and something that is probably my biggest pet peeve of diesel. It's probably even in the gas side, but I'm just not over there, so I don't know. But I talk to a lot of business owners, founders of companies, and one of the things that they talk about is either they knew they wanted to do it from the start, and that's what they did. So they got into starting their own business in their late teens, early 20s, and they built it. Or they would be people like you and I who broke in a different way and were on another path. But there was this nagging voice in the back of our head that said, you should try this. You should do this. Time's running out. You got to go do it. And I've never had this on the podcast. I've only read this different places, but people will say sometimes, oh, well, this guy's just doing it out of his basement, doing it out of his house. And the reason that's always been a pet peeve of mine is I think, how else are you supposed to do it? Are you supposed to go get immensely in debt, get a brick and mortar store and sit there and hope the phone rings and risk your financial life, the providing for your family? How are you going to break into this? And honestly, in other industries, that's how people do it. And so I wanted to chat with you a bit about that, because I know there's people, younger people, who listen and they also hear those same things or read them and think, oh, I shouldn't do it that way. I should probably try to save up the money, get a loan, borrow money, go rent this office space right at the start. What would you tell somebody younger out there that maybe is hesitant because they've heard these other voices, maybe even people they look up to, that say, oh, well, you don't want to be that guy in your house doing it or in your basement doing it?
The biggest thing to me, man, so like working at Bully Dog and SCT, man, we'd always sign up dealers. And we typically, 90% of the time, we hated the basement people. But I would say this, man, you can start a business any way you want as long as you're starting with it with integrity.
Yeah.
So like the biggest thing is with me, I didn't want to take out a loan, man. We started everything out of pocket, man. We lived off savings for years. And of course, we started in the basement. But the thing that makes other big shops mad and other legit companies is the people doing it in the basement that just somehow got a wholesale account and they're slinging the parts for super cheap, man. Like they're like, oh, I don't care. I'm making $20 instead of selling it at at the correct price where you should be making $100. And so, man, I always tell people, if you have the idea and there's a way to do it, absolutely do it, man. It's just got to do it with integrity, man. You can't be that person that's in that does that kind of stuff and is dropping the prices and just kind of screwing everyone else, man. Because I would support someone in a basement any day over someone taking out huge loans, getting themselves up in debt, and setting themselves up, for failure to begin with, man. It can be done that way, man. But I don't know. I've never felt that's the way to do it. So it's just people just need to make sure they're going about it, the right way, man. Just not not actually stepping on people trying to make their own way in the world,
So that would be something that they would use if they had this idea to do anything in automotive and they're trying to set up accounts or trying to network, is making sure these companies or these relationships you're building, they know that you're doing it with integrity, that you're in this for the long haul, versus, like you mentioned, the person that somehow gets a wholesale account and is selling stuff below map and just, all those sorts of things. Because I think that will really help them, what you're talking about, how they approach it, to be able to set these things up. So that would be what you would say, would be a key in doing this.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, obviously, I worked within the industry for a long time, which helped really set me up for success. But I think the way you project yourself and the way you go about stuff really can kind of give people a good idea of what you're going for, man. And like I said, we've seen it over and over again, man. People they get a wholesale account and, they start slinging stuff, but yeah, it's super low prices, and it just that gets around fast, man. If you get that kind of reputation, people People definitely know, man. But I'd say just if you're in it for the long haul and it's, really what you want to do, properly register, a business name, properly put some time into it and, put that effort out there so people know, whether it's just having, a good social media and good standings with, just the basic stuff of making sure you are operating as an actual businessman. There's too many of those people out there. They, like I said, they get the wholesale account and yeah, just start kind of stepping on toes, and that will get you booted pretty quick. And if you're not booted quick, you're not going to have a good reputation. But there's definitely a right and a wrong way to go about it.
Where'd the name Daily Driven Performance come from?
Oh man, that's another drinking story, man. I can't tell you how many times. So me and my good friend Adam Smith, he worked with me at Bully Dog at the time, and we would sit down at the press box in Pocatello, Idaho, man. And my wife at the time she was a server there, and so we'd just sit at the bar and get drunk until she got off work, and she'd give us a ride home. And every day, man, we'd sit there and we'd go back and forth. What would be a good name? I mean, this probably a whole year, man, just going back and forth with it. And then it was just the previous weekend I had driven my truck to I want to say it was a sled pull or drag race, something like that. But we driven it there, we changed tires, and then we ended up towing a truck home at the same time too, because another truck broke. And so it just kind of came from that there's like, you know what, you daily drive the shit out of your truck. That should be the name. And because to me it was a big deal, man. I always showed up to all these events with my truck, and the level that my truck's at, it's about 1,000, 1,200 horsepower. But in that class, I was always competing with dedicated trucks, and especially in the sled pulling world, I was one of the only trucks that would show up that wasn't like a straight sled pull truck. I'd jack the truck up, I'd put my blocks in, we'd change tires, all that good stuff, and we'd almost always place, third, second, and a lot of times first, and then we'd convert it back and drive it home. And so that was always something that, I don't know, man, there's a lot of pride in something like that, man. We were always so happy to show up and do that just seemed super fitting. Another big role of where it came from is, I mean, let's face it, man. We're all young at some point. I feel like a lot of kids start in the diesel industry with smoke. That truck smokes. That's cool. And so I've been blessed enough that when I started out, my first truck was a 94 12 valve, and I had I bought it on the premise that it smoked 100%, man. And I built that truck with as cheap parts as I could find. eBay, the classic eBay HX40, man. I had one of those on that truck, and just big injectors and all that kind of stuff. And it was a fun truck. It made some power, but it wasn't very streetable, man. And then I had another Cummins, and I had built that truck with a little bit more mid-grade parts. That's right when I started working for Bully Dog, and so a little bit more income, and it drove a lot better, but still wasn't really a really what I'd call a true good daily driven truck. It's still smoky, hot, stuff like that. And then our most recent truck, I've had this truck for about 10 years. We built with, some of the better high-end parts, put a lot of thought into making sure everything correctly is matching up, man. We didn't just throw a big set of injectors in and then hope a turbo matched. We did a lot of research, a lot of time, a lot of talking to manufacturers, a lot of learning, and ultimately we built this '06 Mega Cab, and as it sits, it makes 1,200 horsepower, and it still tows trucks, man. Like I towed 2 trucks not too long ago, and then turned around, put dual rear tires on it. When it competed in sled pulling, podiumed, came back home, and so that's kind of where the whole daily driven and just everything came together. Is I was always super proud and having the experience of building with cheap parts, medium parts, and then finally just realizing how much better a truck ran with the correct combination of parts. It's been a journey for me, man. And it not only did it result in truck stuff, but it resulted in daily driven, man. It just, I couldn't believe it, just what I could accomplish with a little bit of research and advice, to think that I made a truck that not only tripled the horsepower of my other trucks that were dirty, but I had built something that I could daily drive and do everything a truck could do and still kick ass on the track. But it just took the right advice and a little bit of research and time.
That was the part that really got me interested, was the daily driven aspect, because I could enjoy the truck and drive it every day and have a little bit more power versus something dedicated. That was always the angle, and that's why with your company name that really caught me, because it touched on something that got me into this at the start. And that's where I think the question came about with our listener. I don't know what other trucks he may have had in the past or anything like that, but he said, hey, I'd love to hear about how I set up a 6.7 Cummins for kind of the ultimate daily driver. And there's so many new products and so many things that people can buy now for these newer trucks where their emissions intact, turbos and tuning and tons of different things. And so I wanted to ask you, how would you set one up? What would be the process? Like if I came to you and I had a bone stock, say 2018 to 2022 6.7 Cummins, and I said, I'm kind of tired of the power. I want a little bit more. I do tow. How would you guide me through that process?
So I guess, here's a pet peeve of mine, man, is because we have a lot of customers that, they say they want more power, this and that. And, they'll even go online to forums and say, hey, look, I need this truck to make 550 horsepower. I want to tow my camper good. And you get a ton of bad advice, man. Like almost instantly on forums, you'll see people like, oh, S467, do an S467, blah, blah, blah. And no one ever actually asked the question, like, how to use the truck. What are you using the truck for? What are you trying to accomplish? And stuff like that. So, I mean, that's always our first go-to when someone comes to us asking for advice. We dig into it. We see what their lifestyle is. Are you going camping? Where do you live? Like New Mexico, to where there's crazy hills and high elevation, or are you in Florida at sea level? All that kind of stuff kind of plays a role in it, man. So we typically ask, that's the biggest thing. What do you do with the truck, and what are you hoping to achieve? And so that depending on what they want to do, that really kind of guides us in the suggestions of as far as the parts go and the combination of parts. But typically on like one of those newer trucks, I mean, no matter where you live, something like, we'll say just like something like an S&B cold air intake, that's a very, very basic mod. They cost $350. Typically it's not going to be a high performance, high horsepower modification, but it's one of those first mods that's super easy for beginners. Just let's face it, if you're new into the diesel scene, you may not be super familiar, and maybe swapping out of turbos intimidating at that point. And so we really enjoy selling the a basic setup like that. You get a little bit more turbo noise. Maybe 10, 15 horsepower of the wheels. Nothing crazy, but it makes your ears happy, and it fulfills that easy, very beginning kind of entry level modification. To one of those trucks. And honestly, on a 6.7 Cummins, I mean, you're probably a 30-minute to an hour install on a cold air intake, but we definitely usually suggest people that's where you start, something like that. There's a lot of other companies out there. S&B is definitely our preferred, but there's Banks, there's AFE. Any of them are going to be a super good company, but over here we just Barry over at S&B's always treat us good, and we believe it's a super high quality product. So that's definitely one of the first mods that we push people into. As far as I guess beyond the S&B intake, or really just any kind of an intake, any kind of calibrations to the trucks are always super helpful. We always kind of have to have that chat with customers when it comes to tuning, though, as to where you have an emission system on that truck that is meant to basically catch particulate matter, right? And so anytime you tune a truck, depending on the tuning, how much time and research they put into, stuff like that, we just want to make sure people are aware that depending on your driving style, it can increase the load on the DPF a little bit, or none at all, depending on how you drive, man. We've tested a lot of emissions on calibrations and tunings on a couple of different platforms, and I mean, we've always been super happy, man. Simply add just 30 to 50 horsepower, very minimal extra load on your DPF, and your towing powers increase, as well as kind of throttle response and the efficiency in that way.
The tuning's definitely come a long way, especially with options and the refinement of it from what the companies that do offer it. They go through a lot of testing and validation procedures before they release it, so it's pretty much ready to go and very smooth, and a lot of different options.
Yeah, and there's a few companies out there. There's a lot of custom tuning companies, that they offer emissions on tuning and stuff like that, and they do just fine. They do good, but recently we've been, I've got a few good buddies over at Edge Products, and Edge is kind of, they used to be a really big name in the tuning space, and then obviously the cool thing is emissions off tuning nowadays and whatnot. But I I've been to the Edges facility and I've seen the amount of money that they've invested into the equipment to try and tune these trucks as efficiently as possible without increasing any of that sit load on the DPF. And dude, it kind of blows my mind at how much money, companies like that have actually invested, man. It straight up looked like, I mean, 50 different sensors, hooked up to the exhaust and measuring all kinds of things inside the DPF. And so it made me really happy when I went and toured Edge's facility and I saw they had all that stuff hooked up. It was really cool to see because I've been in the tuning industry for 12 years easy. And before when the DPFs came out, you'd throw a tuner on there and a hot tune, but within shit, man. I mean, we used to all the time, and we deal with the plug DPF all the time, man. But the new tuning, we're talking. That was 8 years ago, 10 years ago, but the new stuff works really, really good. So we've seen awesome results, man. And the testing, not necessarily on the 6.7 Cummins, but we've tested a lot of emission stuff on our 6.7 Ford, and the regen frequency and all that has been no more than than it was in stock form. But the truck was way more enjoyable to drive.
Now, once we do the air intake and we do tuning, does that seem to get most truck owners kind of right where they want to be for power, or do they still, how does it work from there? Because I think of my journey, I was happy with just a box tune for maybe 3 to 6 months, and then I wanted a little bit more, and it started a whole other process.
Yeah, it depends on the type of person you are, man. Some people that say, I'm very happy with this truck, and other people, it's a snowball effect from there, man. Like I'm one of those people. We've had four different trucks I've had in the last few years, and I can't tell you how many times I've been like, this is all I'm going to do to it. And I mean, you're familiar with that, right? Yeah, I guarantee you've been down that road, and that's not all I've done to it, man. So if anyone wants something beyond there, like I said, intake, tuning, bam, that's going to be probably good for, I'd say, 50% of people, but the other 50% of people that want more, there's still some other stuff that you can do for those. So depending on the year, man, it's just kind of hard to say. Depending on how much power you want, though, I mean, there's things like, with utilizing the stock exhaust system, you can do things like DPF back exhaust. That doesn't necessarily add a ton of power. I mean, they can have measurable flow increases, but it's just kind of one of those things. It's not going to be a world-changing effect. So typically, if we get someone that wants power beyond that, then we're talking something like maybe a little bit bigger turbo, something like a Fleece Cheetah, Industrial Mixer XR series that are a super high quality turbo. And so that's typically, just going something a little bit more expensive, and something like that's going to have a much bigger impact on your horsepower. But when it comes to the turbo, man, we have sold and installed, I mean, the Cheetah turbo from Fleece, man, it's been a super high quality product that we've had really good luck with on those trucks, man. I don't know if you've ever, personally ran one of those products in any of your trucks, but they still retain the stock exhaust brake, which is a lifesaver. I can't imagine why anyone would ever get rid of the exhaust brake on a daily driven truck, man. But those turbos, they spool good, they come in quick, they supply the necessary amount of air to kind of help make sure you're getting a good air fuel mixture with your stock injector, so you're not sit loading that DPF. But that's usually the route we go. I mean, there's lots of different options for it, but Fleece is typically the one that we've had the most experience with.
Fleece has a ton of cool things. Like the Cheetah is one of the first things I think about, and then also their lift pumps and some of the other things that they've gotten into. And that's kind of leads me into the fuel system side, because I think if you have a daily driver, maybe you're just happy with the tune for now, and you don't think you're going to do anything else in the future, or you have other plans, is the fuel system side, not just for getting more fuel supply to the injection pump, but then also filtering out water, air, different things like that. Yeah. How is that something you would recommend as well, to look into an aftermarket lift pump system?
Oh, absolutely, man. So depending on what you're wanting to do with the truck, I mean, Fleece has their intake, lift pumps and stuff like that, but I've always just been a big fan of, straight up going straight to a Fass with those trucks. You get the extra filtration. I want to say the want to say the stock fuel filter on a 6.7 Cummins is like 10 microns, something like that. And then especially if you have a truck that has a CP4 pump, the Fass or AirDog lift pumps, they make a huge difference, man. Being able to actually get constant fuel delivery to your CP4 without, any kind of interruption, without any kind of air, without any kind of moisture, makes a big difference, man. Not to mention, fastest fuel filters, I mean, they're down to 2 micron. And so I don't know how many people are super familiar with basically the fuel systems on these trucks nowadays, but they are finicky, man. You get the tiniest bit of debris in it, you can have a huge issue, man. I mean, CP4 pumps blowing up, freaking sending shrapnel through the entire system, man. And I mean, we had I think it was a 19 not too long ago that did that, man. And he was $8,000 to $10,000, and just to get that truck back up on the road. And the unfortunate thing is he was actually on his way to Chrysler to get the CP3 conversion warranty done, and that happened right then. Wow. Sent everything through his fuel system, and the dealership told him to pack sand, man. So we basically got his truck back here. We did the whole disaster kit. We redid his entire fuel system, but the biggest thing we wanted to make sure that he added in there was the fast lift pump, just because of the micron count of the filtration of it. He was happy as could be when he got his truck back, man. It makes a big difference. Not necessarily a huge performance gain on a mostly stock truck, but man, to know that you're having consistent, clean fuel delivery that's going to keep your truck healthy and running for the long run is a good feeling, man. So it's a Fass AirDog. They're definitely a good purchase. I mean, even the fleece lift pump is still going to provide. They have adequate fuel pressure to the CP3 or CP4. That's making it happy. So yeah, not a bad modification at all.
Would you say when it comes to the CP4, because that has such a, I'd say, a bad reputation in the aftermarket or with enthusiasts, whether it's a Duramax, a Power Stroke, or those Cummins year ranges that had it, and people want the longevity and they look towards that. Maybe they're not trying to build a ton of power, but it kind of goes back like all the way to the beginning. Why do you buy a diesel truck? You buy it because it's built robust, makes tons of torque.
Yep.
They can put hundreds of thousands of miles on them, and you might not keep the truck that long, but you want that because you think, I'm going to keep this for 10 years or put 300,000 miles on it. Is that something that factors into the 6.7 Cummins kind of daily driver reliability build?
Yeah. So, I mean, the CP4, I mean, a lot of other countries do CP4 pumps and stuff like that, but let's face it, man, our fuel here in the US is a little bit different than what other people are working with, man. It's not the best. And so typically with the 6.7 Cummins, man, if we're getting a truck that's coming in here and they're concerned about the CP4, they don't have a huge budget. The first thing that we do is we do a fast system on it. Just like I said, constant fuel pressure. You're able to make sure it got better fuel filtration. So that's giving your CP4 pump the best chance at the best life. However, if you have the coin, or if you're super worried about it, doing a CP3 conversion is no doubt a huge benefit to those trucks. The CP3 has been around since 2001, something like that. Yep, 2001, and they're tried and true, man. And so it's kind of a wonder that they've allowed the CP4 pump on as many trucks as they have. I mean, like I said, in other countries, man, they seem to work fine, but here with the particular kind of fuel quality we have, they haven't had a really good run. And so Dodge offered the CP4 pump on the 19 and 20 models, if I'm not mistaken. But we definitely get those in, and doing a CP3 conversion is definitely one of those things that's not only going to help have a little bit better fuel delivery, but it's going to be one of those peace of mind knowing that this investment, this $100,000 truck investment that you did is going to continue to run and drive appropriately, man. I mean, that's depending on your income. Some people it's a lot of money, some people it's let's just do it because I don't want to spend more money down the road. But we absolutely believe big time in the CP3 conversion kits. Whether it's we've got a few good. We do a lot of industrial CP3 kits around here. We do some fleece stuff. Just kind of depends on what the customer asks, but it's one of those modifications that I think is worth just about every penny that you're going to spend on it.
One of the things I overlooked the most in my journey or interest in diesel was fuel quality, and I've had Amsoil and Hot Shot Secrets and other places tell me just how bad the fuel quality sucks. and
Yeah.
how much it varies. Sometimes there's a great place and you just don't know. It varies all the time. And just being able to take that variable out of the equation as best as you can through, something like a Fass kit, a CP3 conversion, even fuel additives that
Yep.
you can run every day. It's just such a huge part of that reliability, durability, maintenance part.
Yeah, and it's just kind of a crappy deal, man. Like you don't you don't want to go out and buy $100,000 diesel truck and then think you have to do certain things. So like adding additive and changing CP4s to CP3s. But man, again, you're driving around in a $70,000 to $100,000 truck. So the fuel additives do make a big difference, man. I don't know about you, but we've sell and run a few over here. Hot Shot Secrets is definitely a huge name, man. They've tried, true, tested, through all kinds of third-party tests. We sell a lot of OptiLube around here as well, just because they're a little bit more local to us. They're in the Utah area, so we do sell a lot of OptiLube. We run in all of our own trucks and stuff like that. But yeah, it's never a really bad idea to add that. I mean, some people don't want to spend the money, but yeah, I'm telling you right now, man, it's definitely worth spending a little bit of extra money to make sure that it's gonna, be keeping your fuel system happy, keeping everything, lubricated and all that good stuff.
The next place my mind goes for this is, I think we've addressed air. Maybe we've done a different turbo. We've got some quality tuning on the truck. We're helping our fuel system. I think about the transmission next.
Oh yeah.
And that's that's where I think it ultimately goes. So how would you advise me or somebody that calls in or stops at the shop and they've got this recipe with parts they want to do, but they've got a bone stock 68 RFE?
Yeah. So, man, the 68 RFE, that's kind of a sore subject, man. It's wild to me that you can still buy again this 100K truck and you're still gonna have kind of a little bit of a shortcoming with a part on it. But kind of depending on what you're doing, man. If you're shooting for that, just a little bit over stock, you're trying to have something that drives good, tows good. You're not building a race truck or anything like that, man. Typically, about the only upgrade that we, again, depending on budget, that we really suggest doing is doing some of the billet no flex, valve bodies. Essentially, we do a transmission tune on it. We raise line pressure from say 170 from the stock to about 170 on a stock transmission, or if you have that aftermarket valve body, we're able to bring the line pressure up, a little bit more, 220, 225. Basically it's going to help hold everything together a little bit better to where we're not getting that major slippage. It just really kind of depends on your goal. But yeah, the first thing that we recommend if you plan on modifying and heavily using that truck is definitely getting a valve body in there. There's a few good companies out there. RevMax has kind of been what I would consider one of the biggest pioneers behind making the 68 RFE, a reliable, well-driven transmission. They offer a couple variations of their valve bodies, but we definitely suggest doing, a higher end billet, no flex valve body. ATS again, you're familiar with them. We toured their facility not too long ago, and the amount of time and effort that went into their valve body also was pretty incredible to see. So you're going to spend a couple $1,000s, between the parts and getting it in there. But to me, if I were building a 68 RFE, or not necessarily fully building, but making one that's going to be reliable to where you're not running the basic modification took into a trailer, I would at least do the valve body in there and some transmission tuning to make sure that you're gonna have confidence when towing, man. Because that's the biggest thing with the Dodges, dude. I can't tell how many customers' trucks we bring in here. We tune it, we do a few small things, and the next question is, well, how long is my transmission gonna last? And obviously the reply is, comes down to your driving style. Are you gonna drive like you're 15? You drive like you're 70. But if you're anywhere in between or just working the truck, man, they do go out even just with normal driving. And so like I said, RevMax, ATS, Randy's Transmission. I mean, there's plenty of companies out there that have put so much R&D and time and effort into figuring out how to make these things live without having to do a fully built transmission. You know what I'm saying? And so, typically doing a billet no flex valve body is good enough for most people. If you're going to be one of those people, have no chill, someone like me who just can't seem to keep a truck under 800 horsepower, then obviously, you're going to want to get in touch with someone, again, RevMac, Randy's. We're partial to a company called Ultimate Transmission out of Garden City, Idaho. But if you're planning on abusing the truck a little bit more, we typically recommend getting, a triple disc billet converter in there, some HD clutch pack, stuff like that. And if you really plan on, beating the truck, billet input, intermediate output, and just kind of going from there, man. But most people don't have 10 to 12K, laying around to build a transmission, man. It's wild how just how it's changed over the years, dude. My first built transmission I put in my truck, I think I paid like $6,000 for. And nowadays, man, that ain't gonna get you nothing, unfortunately.
Yeah, they've definitely gotten more expensive. I think way back when, I mean, it wouldn't be a 6.7, but like a 5.9 with a 48 RE, you could get a pretty stout setup, depending how you did it for, 6, maybe a little under, a little bit over.
Yep.
But they're so complex, the newer ones, and there's so much investment that the companies have into the pumps, the valve bodies, the drums, the tuning for them, what kind of tuning, if they provide it, all that, kind of factors into it. But on the other hand, it's really refreshing because I had friends in the past that they were Cummins guys and they didn't buy one. They went to Ford or Duramax because they did not want to deal with a 68 RFE because there wasn't a lot of aftermarket support for it to the level that they needed it.
Yep.
So that's where the 6R140, we've heard so many stories how bulletproof those are, or Allison options. There were tons of ways to build them. And so it's refreshing to see on the Cummins side, you mentioned Randy's and ATS and these other places that have invested a lot of time and effort into offering a solid, reliable setup. It kind of reinvigorates the excitement about it.
Yeah, dude, it really does. Well, I mean, this is getting less common for me, but I used to get a ton of people that are like, look, I want to build a truck for 700 to 1,000 horsepower. And the first thing they'd ask me is like, is it worth converting over to a 48 RE? And I'm like, dude, you just bought a 2018 truck and you want to put a transmission from 2007, out of it, in it, and I'm like, but back then, when there wasn't a lot of options for the 60 RFE, that's kind of the way people were going if you wanted them to hold power. But nowadays, just with the the R&D and the type of research that's been put into them, it's definitely came a long ways, man. Is it the best transmission in the world? No, far from it. But at least we have the tools and the products at our disposal to build it to, I mean, literally valve body, some tuning. I would feel 100% confident hooking up to a trailer and do what I need to do with it, man. Use it as a truck. And I think that's what most, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the customers I deal with, daily driven, that's all most people need, man. We don't need to have something that's going to hold, crazy amounts of horsepower, but just knowing that you're going to have something reliable to make it up the pass goes a long ways with how much you can physically and actually enjoy your truck. And so, like I said, with just simple upgrades with the transmission tuning, bringing line pressure up, and getting a valve body that's worth a shit in there, that's going to be more than enough for your daily driven truck, typically.
Well, the daily driver side is another aspect of what surprised me because I was always interested in the performance side, kind of like yourself in the racing, and I thought everyone doesn't do this or half the people don't do it, but it's a very kind of smaller percentage of truck owners who, they do want that 1,000 or that 1,500 or even more. But the other 99%, they just want to start, to run, to last them, get them from point A to point B, help them do their job, take their family on vacation. And that's where I think right now in 2023, the aftermarket is the best it's ever been. All the companies that are out there, all the options. I know we're talking about Cummins, but like S&S with their DCR conversion for the CP4, that's massive. Or they have CP3 conversions for the Duramax, for the LMLs. It's just like kind of the golden age of options that are available. Yeah.
I mean, it's came so far, man. Like, shit. I remember when I first worked for Bully Dog, man, way back in the day. This was 13, 14 years ago, more than that. But I remember the aftermarket support was hardly anything, man. Like there was the handful of companies that did stuff like that, and 800 horsepower was something that was just like an insane figure, man. I remember Jared Vollmer back in the day, with the race truck. We when we first hit 1,000 horsepower on that truck as a race truck, it was kind of like, dang, this is insane. But nowadays, man, with the amount of research and development and aftermarket support, I mean, you can make big power and still use it as a daily driven truck. But to me, a true daily driven truck, man, the funnest daily driven truck to me is like around that 500 to 700 horsepower range, man. And the cool thing about nowadays with all the R&D, I mean, you can do it legally, man, like without upsetting the EPA or anything like that, man. Like we'll use like Dynomite Diesel, for example. They've been working hand in hand trying to get EO numbers, for all their injectors, which is huge. Same thing with Fleece. Fleece is their 68 millimeter Cheetah, right? A little bit bigger turbo, supports up to, heck, man, that turbo supports enough air, flows enough air to support up to an easy 700 horsepower. And guess what? They have an EO number, man. Like, so that's a totally carb legal, item that you can put on your truck. And so a lot of these daily driven trucks, you can still do, say you do tuning, you got your Fass or your CP3, you throw a Fleece Cheetah on there. Every one of those parts is going to be carb legal, except, tuning, that's neither here or there, but, that's, as long as your emissions on, no one's going to give, too much of a hassle with it. And then, the last part of the equation in a truck like that is the injectors, man. And even you can get injectors nowadays, like let's say Dynomite Diesels, they have their economy series, man. They're like I want to say they're like 10 to 15% overstock, but they're working on an EO carb number for them. So like to have that combination of parts, I mean, you could easily make, 600, 650 horsepower and still be carb compliant, which is, I hate that we're in a day and age where we have to get excited about that kind of stuff, but dude, it is what it is, man. It's just nature of the beast. It's either diesel's going to go away or we figure out how to make everyone happy and still have our fun,
It's really true, because over the last, I'd say about 4 years, maybe a little bit longer, there was, I think, a lull with the parts available for these newer trucks. Not because companies didn't care, but it's a long process to get the testing done, to get the approval done. And we get questions all the time from somebody who had at the time, a brand new 2018 or 2019. What's available for my truck? I should just sell this and go get a 5.9. I should just go back to that because I can get all the parts. And there just wasn't a lot available. And where now there is, and I think you're right, that sweet spot for daily driving is 550, 700, kind of right in that range where it's still usable. It's still reliable. You can still tow with it. And no matter where you live, what state you're in, or where you're traveling to, you don't have to worry about, what happens when my emissions test comes up, or can I go to this place and is it going to be an issue? So that's the part that I'm excited about, because there was like a 2-year period where people would ask us, well, can you get somebody on the podcast to talk about what to do to my 2019? I'm like, there's not a whole lot yet, because these companies are working on things where now there's dozens of companies I could have on to talk about their products.
Yeah, well, and that's the cool thing, man, is no one really cared too much until the last few years, man. Like, heck, man, it's been a long time, but like, let's say when the DPF first came out, right, and Bully Dog was offering tuning, Edge was offering tuning, all that kind of stuff, and everyone was kind of trying to be compliant at that point, but the research and the technology just wasn't there to make those type of things effective, man. Like I kind of mentioned earlier, man, we'd throw a tune on the old 6.4 tow truck we had at the time, but the DPF would be clogged so fast, man. And it just wasn't a viable thing to do at that moment. Being now in 2023, like I feel 100% confident when, say, a customer's truck comes in and we do, the combination of parts that we've been talking about, man, where the tuning has been refined to where we can make that tuning to where the sit load is really, minimal. So you're not gonna have that instant plug DPF issue like we've had, in previous years. Then just match with things like, the turbo tier fueling also plays a big role in that too, man. We see a lot of people that will either put too big of a turbo on their truck, and just spool slow. So obviously your sit load increases. But I can confidently say that we've had a truck come in here where we've done something like a Fleece Cheetah. We've tuned it, and then just a very small set of injectors. Like I said, we prefer Dynomite over here, but the technology that has been put into between the air and fuel system is just making sure that you get everything so efficient now, man. Like between the atomization that's happening from just how far the injectors and the tips have came to how the air comes into, but just make sure everything's coming together. It's a good air fuel mixture. It really is minimizing that sill load. And yeah, I mean, your emission system is just going to be just as happy with those modifications as long as they're matched up appropriately. Than it was in stock form. The only difference is you get a lot more smiles out of it, man. More power. You're not worrying about pulling the hills and doing all that crap and having to downshift. It's totally possible to build a very reliable truck that makes 100 to 200 horsepower more than it was in stock form. It's just got to make sure you're doing a little bit of research on it and just making sure everything is meshing correctly together.
If somebody's got specific questions for you about their 6.7 or even other trucks, I know you guys, offer solutions and products and things for Power Stroke and Duramax. But if somebody's got questions for you guys, what's the best way to reach out, connect, maybe ask about turbo or tuning or lift pumps or transmission or anything that's going to go into their particular build? It's the best way to get in contact with you guys.
I'm super easy to get a hold of, man. We have our phone number that's just listed on dailydrivenperformance.com. We have our email that's listed on there as well. The standard form of communication for most people nowadays is Facebook, believe it or not, man. As far as, man, we probably get, I'd say probably a good 60 to 70% of our communication is done through Facebook at this moment in time. But yeah, I mean, as far as getting a hold of me, you can find me, my Facebook page as far as Lyle Richmond is 100% business oriented, man. We're sort of so far past having a personal Facebook page. You can reach out to me on just on there. You can reach out to the Daily Driven Facebook page. You can call us. Phone number is 208-705-2212. Don't hesitate to call, text. I mean, whatever, man. It's as long as you're not calling or bugging us, at 12 o'clock on a Sunday, 12 o'clock in the evening on a Sunday, something like that. Dude, we're so happy to help and kind of guide people with their questions, man. We get overwhelmed some days, so sometimes we don't answer a little bit. We will answer a little bit slower, but I promise I always get back to everyone.
Well, I appreciate you chatting with me today, educating me on the options that are out there for these trucks and ways to set them up. And I know that listener that messaged into us is really going to appreciate the chat that you had with us today and talking with us about products. I know you're busy today. You've got, an event that you're going to be going, hosting for a couple days, but it's cool to chat with you, connect, and keep me updated on that 06 Mega Cab, things you're doing, the 6.7 Power Stroke you got. You'd mentioned to me that, that I'm sure you'll be doing some stuff too, having fun with. It was really cool to chat with you.
I'm trying not to, but it's gonna happen, man.
Don't forget, Diesel fans, make sure and head on over to Kershaw.kaiusa.com. Use code 23diesel20 for 20% off site-wide. It's a great way to save some money, get some really cool gear. So if you're in the market for a knife for hunting, fishing, EDC, they've definitely got you covered. They've had a whole bunch of new knives release in 2023. One of the newest models are the Duralock models, and they have a blade mitts out of D2 steel, and then also different choices for blade shape and handle shape as well. So if you're in the market, use code 23diesel20 and get 20% off your order. Also want to give a shout out to some of our Patreon supporters, Tyler Loewen at 23 Diesel, J. Cole, John, all of our other Patreon supporters, all of you who subscribe on YouTube and podcast apps, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We appreciate all your support here in year 7 of the Diesel Podcast and look forward to bringing you more of the content that you guys want to hear in 2023. Until next time, keep the shiny side up.